have seen that spiritual need, and that we are willing to enter in through the door in order to get to the truth that the Word of Elohim has for us. And that in entering into the truth that He has for us, we have a handle on, or we have access to His power and ability to work things in our life. But we have to be able to recognize that spiritual need. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom, the reign of the heavens. The heavens is the realm of Elohim. So if we recognize that spiritual poverty, then we have access to the reign of the most powerful entity in existence and beyond. And we can reach up, and He will provide for us our needs. We just go through the door. The next one is, hey, lead me in your truth. Well, lead me in your truth. The word is actually lamed. It says, teach me, show me, guide me, instruct me. And in lamed, we see something that gives us a little bit more of an idea of what's going on, in that in lamed, when we do enter into that door, what greets us at the door? Well, the first thing that greets us at the door is the word and the salvation of Yahweh Elohim, the very word, the living water of Elohim, which brought completion, brought fulfillment, brought clarity to the Torah, that in that we can receive that instruction. So teach me, lead me in your truth. And we've seen from above that if we're going to be led in the truth, that in Yadi, or Yada, that to show me, that He's going to show us the truth, and that we are going to walk in truth, which is one of the 4 prerequisites set forth by Yeshua in John 4, 22, 23, and 24. He said what? You don't understand what you worship, because salvation is of the Yehudim. What is Yehudim? Well, first of all, Yehudim, the Jews, means gratitude. But Yehudim, the root of Yehudim is Judah, which means praise. So we have to have praise. We have to have gratitude. For the Father is looking for those who will worship in spirit and in truth. So we have praise, gratitude. We have to have truth in order to have spirit. So we are entering into the door to learn from the Word, who will show us the ways and the truth of the Father. We move on next to the Vav. It says, and teach me, for you are Elohim, the Elohim of my deliverance. You are the Elohim of my deliverance. This is the Vav. Okay? We remember in Genesis 1:1, where it says, Brashit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et haaretz, that something is going to attach what we lost. The glory of Elohim is going to be reattached to us through something. And in Genesis 1:1, we see that it is through va'et, that it was through the Aleph and the Tav that became flesh. Now, deliverance in Hebrew, I might as well just keep that off of there. Deliverance in Hebrew is, Yasha. Now, we're considering that this is the Vav in this numerical order, that it's something that brings us deliverance. And that if deliverance and salvation became flesh, then what happened? That He became Yeshu, and then the Vav came here to become Yeshua. But it's not simply Yeshua. Because what are we saying in this verse? Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the Elohim of my deliverance. On you I will wait. What came into Yeshua? If he's the Elohim of my deliverance, then the instruction of Yahweh Elohim was delivered through the Spirit of truth to become Mashiach. What we are seeing in this verse is that Mashiach was sent. Yeshua was sent to help us to come out and to help us along the way, to lead me in your truth and teach me, because you are the Elohim of my deliverance, that he sent the word and the salvation, his word and salvation, by power of Mashiach, the anointing of Yahweh, on Miriam, and she gave birth to the son Yehoshua, who was in his name. So if we have Yeshua in the name of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yehovah, then what do we have? We have the full name is Yehoshua. Now we have the fullness of the name of the word and the salvation of Yehovah Elohim, who is Yehoshua, in this sixth letter, that the word and the salvation became flesh. Zion. Remember, O Yehovah, your compassion and your loving commitments. Well, that one is pretty straightforward. Remember, Zakar, that he remembers us. He doesn't forget, but we are to remember and to observe his word and salvation. That we are to believe and receive. And if we believe and receive, then he remembers us. Zakar is to remember. And Zakar is an interesting word that brings out what it is that we are to remember. Is that in Zakar, what are we doing? That we are trusting in the protection and the nourishment that comes through the word to bring us blessings by the authority of the word that was bestowed on that word and salvation by Elohim himself. So that through the word we receive blessings. Have I lost everybody? Am I in the process of losing everybody? Okay. But he remembers us. He has compassion on us. And he is merciful. This word that for loving commitments is actually chesed. That we talked about it, his kindness, his mercy, his compassion, his love, everything is balled up when he remembers us. He remembers us in this way. And we say that Elohim is love, then we understand that the totality of what that relationship is on his part for us, that he loves us so completely that he backed off on himself and made room for us, that we have to ask, if he remembers us in such a way, then can I back off and make room for him in my life as well? That if I am in his image, then I have to show the passion and the same loving commitment that he has to me. I have to reflect that back to him. And being in his image, I have to reflect that out to everyone around me. Okay? Hey, do not remember the sins of my youth and my transgressions. According to your loving commitment, remember me. And this gives us the next little verse in Matthew, that blessed are those who mourn, because they shall be comforted. We remember our youth. We remember the time that we were in a state of spiritual poverty. And we cry out. We mourn. And when we recognize that we have a spiritual need, then we should mourn. But what does it say? Blessed are those who mourn, because they will be comforted. So when we understand that we have fallen somewhere spiritually, and we have the math to be able to do it with what we received on Tuesday, that we can reach out and say, help me in this part, I'm not quite making it here. And what did we just learn? That he has compassion, that he has love, that he has mercy, and that he will guide us to figure it out. And it's for your goodness sake,
Amen.
oh Yahweh. The next in line is Tet. Good and straight is Yehovah, therefore he teaches sinners in the way. The word sinners is from the word chatat, which means a habitual offense. And I don't know about y'all, but how many people in here have something that they do? They know they shouldn't do it, but they do it. And you say, dadgummit. And you're up there, I'm sorry, I goofed up again. Because we don't catch ourselves in time. Or we allow that thing that gets in the way. We talked about the enemies. That thing that gets in the way, that separates us from the truth and the house, and separates us from Elohim himself. That we let the flesh get in the way, and we let that flesh just overpower us. Because we are carnal creatures. We can't get away from that. We have an earth suit with a little spirit and soul inside saying, let me out, let me out. But the only way for that little spirit to get out is really drastic, and we don't want to go there anytime soon. You know, if we think about it for sure, is, you know, nobody wants to die. But at the same time, we have to build our relationship while we're here. So we go back and we understand that good and straight is what he teaches us. And if we will pay attention to the instruction, knowing that if we do transgress, and we will transgress, there's nothing we can do about that, it's going to happen. And if we're honest with ourselves, that's part of the way of recognizing that we are spiritually poor.
Yes.
Then we understand that he is loving and compassionate and merciful to forgive. And that he will teach us. And that we will grow. And we'll figure out ways to get around or to rise above. Scraping our knees every few weeks, every other day, every day. You know, I shouldn't eat those things, but I do. But, you know, that's not a sin. Anyway, Yod. He guides the meek ones. He guides the humble in his right ruling, and he teaches the meek ones his way. What does the next thing in Matthew tell us? He says, blessed are the meek, because they shall inherit the earth. And it's the same thing that tells us in Psalms 37:11, that blessed are the humble, because they will inherit the earth. Now, what do we want the earth for? What it's saying is that we will inherit a restoration of the earth if we will put our trust in him. Then that thing that we talked about that attaches the heavens to the earth will go into effect, and that here and now the glory of Elohim will be reattached to us, and we will inherit the earth, and we will inherit the goodness that comes from it. We will be fruitful. Our trees will bear fruit. We will have an abundance of life. Okay? Everybody with me? Okay. Kaf. All the paths of Yahweh are loving commitment and truth. To those who guard or maintain fidelity, his covenant and his witnesses. Well, we guard his covenant. What is it to guard his covenant? Does he need somebody to actually protect him? To guard his word? The word actually means maintain fidelity. And if we are the bride, well, we should strive to maintain fidelity, because we know that the groom, the most powerful entity in existence and beyond, doesn't have a problem maintaining fidelity, because he is Elohim, our trustworthy king. We don't have to worry about him straying, but we should watch ourselves in keeping the covenant and be his witnesses. The word for witnesses is Adah. Actually, Adah. And we see this particular root is ed, which means to witness, to be, to testify. So what we see in this is that, like we've talked about before, in Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad, we've talked about it before, that the ayin in Shema and the Dalet and Echad are enlarged. They spell a witness. So we keep in mind again the Shema. That the Shema doesn't mean simply to hear, to listen, but it also means to act. It means to proclaim it. It means to perceive. It means to discern. It means to be content. The Ad means that we are to be a witness of it. And it goes on to say, and you shall love Yehovah your Elohim with what? Basically with everything you are. With your heart, with your soul, your mind, your strength. And then it gives us a whole plethora of things to spread that word out. When we lie down, when we rise up, tell it to our children, talk about it on the road, post it on our doors and on our gates. So we have a big responsibility in maintaining our fidelity, not just maintaining our fidelity, but, and say, let's say, guard the covenant, but also we have a responsibility to help others to see the word of Elohim. And we have to do it in a loving way, because we have to emanate him. We can't just go and bash people over the head and say, you know, you're using a word that actually means, you know, the pagan god of something. You know, you don't win over a whole lot of people bashing them in the head. And I say, what is the saying? You get a lot more flies with honey than you do vinegar? I mean, not that we want flies, but I'm just saying. So, anyway, we go on to Lamed. For your name's sake, you shall pardon my crookedness, though it is great. Through your name's sake, you shall pardon my crookedness, for it is great. We've said that pardon, to deliver, is what? Yasha. For his name's sake. Again, we understand that his name's sake is Yehoshua. His name's sake, that his word and salvation came to show us the way. And that because of what he did at the Tav, I'd rather say at the Tav, because like that I don't have to say at the cross or at the stake or at the tree, or however, whatever way you want to imagine that Romans disposed of criminals back then. Peter says they hung him on a tree. We read that he was on a cross. We read that he was impaled on a stake. It doesn't matter. He died in my place. He died in your place. He shed that blood at the Tav. What is the Tav? Tav, first of all, Tav means a vehicle of sacrifice. Second of all, Tav represents the covenant marker. So he was the vehicle of sacrifice whose blood was shed on the covenant marker, representing the bulls representing the bulls. What are the bulls? The Aleph, he represented Yahweh Elohim.